Yeah, we straight chillin', serial killing, pre-cold villains on the mic, got you reeling. 5-star rated from the floor to the ceiling. If you catch a 1-star, no time for feelings. Got a demon DJ on the ones and twos by the name Beelzebub, so don't get confused. So grab a seat by the fire, roast them all over two, and prepare to hear the legend of the straight chillin' crew.
What up, nerds, and welcome to another handsy episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name is Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode number 377, recorded on Sunday, June 26th, 2022. Tonight, we're talking about the latest from Scott Derrickson. The movie is The Black Phone. Before we get into it, let me introduce everyone else on the show tonight. First up, calling in from Washington, D.C., we got our boy Randu. How do?
Ring, ring.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
How's it going? That was a long way of getting there and did not require an extra bump because I was too lazy to acquire one.
Well, that's just fantastic. Thanks for bringing your A game, Randy. As always.
Yeah. Believe it or not, that is my A game.
Rang. Reminds me of that like interstitial from the Outcast record Stankonia. Anyways.
That is, yeah, okay, very specific. Thank you.
Let me date myself. Last but not least, calling in from South Korea, we got our boy Soju. What's up, man?
Oh, what up? It's your boy Soju. Talking about a new film, boys.
Brand new. So new that there's no time to formulate
film.
a stain joke.
Yeah. That's how fresh it is.
It's just, I just came right out of the credits to this recording.
Just got right out of the theater, boys. Came right over.
Just like the old days.
Yeah. We used to do that shit like fools. Like damn fools.
What?
We weren't
actually,
even profesh.
This used to take a solid 5 hours to do. Straight.
Time flies when you're drinking that much, though.
It's true.
What you got to do to make a great podcast is chug whiskey, okay?
Yeah. It'll be great for you, terrible for listeners.
Yeah. We can prove that. Before we get into the main event, let's tackle some housekeeping, gentlemen. This is going to be your final reminder for the July poll pick, which is currently posted on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're talking about this July. The theme for July is Animals Run Amok. The movies to vote between are Lake Placid, Arachnophobia, and The Island of Dr. Moreau.
Bob, tell me how those numbers are looking so far.
Man, I think Lake Placid has this one wrapped up.
Oh, shit.
Okay.
The blood's in the water.
It is far ahead of Arachnophobia and even further ahead of Dr. Moreau.
Yeah. Take that,
And
John Goodman.
Yeah. I was going to say, let's not forget that around here that we take that as a personal affront to Mr. John Goodman.
Mr. Goodman.
Take that.
Fuck you, John.
Jeff Daniels, yeah, he's fine.
He's all right.
Yeah, he'll live.
Make sure you get your votes in before the 1st of July, which is going to be this Friday. And that means on the 1st of July, we got a brand new poll pick dropping. Go ahead and talk about it for a second. Our August poll pick dropping this Friday. And the theme is going to be back to school. And the movies to vote between are Raw, Cherry Falls, and The Faculty.
What? I specifically picked the Deftones music video.
Yeah, we'll talk about that for an hour.
Speaking of very specific dated things.
Right.
I live my life in y'all's past.
In fairness, it's The
reason.
Faculty and Cherry Falls are on this list, so I guess we're living in that era.
Yeah.
the three movies stacked up together seems like a sexually driven Mad Lib of some kind, but I can't figure out what it
thinking
means.
the same thing. Let the faculty smash your cherries raw. Something like that. Sorry. That was
Okay.
probably a
Well,
little much.
that was a problem, and we're already on our apology tour. We are so sorry.
Yeah. So that'll drop this Friday. We also dropped a brand new mini cast last Friday. If you support us at the $10 level or above, you get access to a whole back catalog of Patreon exclusive episodes. We dropped our 69th episode this past Friday.
69. Wow.
69.
69 dudes.
How am I supposed to
Thank
deny
you.
such a heavy lead?
Staring you down.
Do the button.
Juice was talking about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Whoa, we finally dipping our toe into the MCU. First
It's
of
all
many,
money
I'm
from
sure.
here on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
First of
Around here,
many,
that
I'm
means
sure.
big money.
But directed by Sam Raimi. So, it warranted a discussion. I think it was horror enough, but you can hear me talk all about that on the mini cast on Patreon.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much to be horror enough for this podcast, so I'm sure.
The
I'm sure many will agree.
We will
I
be
love
talking about 98 Godzilla very soon. So, I mean,
we will be talking
Spooky
about that.
shit.
horror.
I cannot wait. I love the Bruce Campbell cameo in the new Doctor Strange movie where he's the Pizza Papa.
Oh, yeah.
Pizza Papa always gets paid. Good shit. Check that out. What else we got here? We're dropping a new episode of Let's Get Physical Media this Tuesday. So at the time of you listening to this, the episode's already available. If you have any interest in collecting Blu-rays, 4Ks, DVDs, things of that nature, check out Let's Get Physical Media everywhere you get your podcast. Mikey and I, we're talking about our May pickups. We've got like 25 movies or something like that we get into. A lot
piece?
of A24 joints. No, total.
Oh, okay.
I'm genuinely
Let's
surprised
not
by
get
that answer.
crazy,
Me
okay?
too. Bob used to hit those numbers pretty reg back in the day. What's happening?
Inflation's hitting the blue market hard.
If they were willing to play ball at Spooky Empire, I mean, I would have had probably twice as much. But that dude was crazy, so we didn't buy anything from him.
Did you just go to Spooky?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, they had their summer Spooky last
okay.
weekend.
Whoa, I didn't realize that. All right.
All right. Yeah. What else we got going on? So congratulations to everybody that grabbed a You Pick the Flick spot. We reopened the tier today. This is for the third quarter of the year. Brandon, Logan, Kelvin, Dongster, Sam, and Alex, congratulations to all 5 of you.
Oh boy, Dongster.
The internet's a weird place.
What is he gonna pick? Oh man, finally the Bear Winch Project, I'm sure.
I hope so.
Finally.
Oh, man.
What are we gonna do once that's on the table,
Who
I don't
told
know.
you that it isn't? Like with this
That's
podcast,
right.
we have drawn very few firm lines.
That's my boy Dongster.
Also,
He's
Bob,
a firm line.
how do you
Yeah.
feel about the Karma Cola that's coming up? I remember you bitching pretty hard when we had to cover Ghost during spooky season, and now it
Yes.
seems like we'll be covering 98's Godzilla during spooky season.
Actually, that's Brandon shows that, I believe, and he's first up. So we'll be doing that probably sometime in July.
That's good.
Okay, so it'll be
Yeah.
a summer pick.
Yeah.
All right.
So it'll be
Yeah.
Requiem for a Dream, right?
It might be. Yeah, that might. Whew. Yeah, nice and spooky and
Breezy
in
shit.
the wrong way. Spooky in the wrong way.
Oh, yeah.
The last thing I got here is we are doing another Joe Bob watch party this Friday, July 1st. This is going to be the season 4 finale of the last drive-in. So make sure you're there hanging out with us. We drop a Zoom link to join the watch party just before showtime. It starts at 9 p.m. Eastern. And you can find that link on our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, everywhere. And we'll see what he's showing. Hopefully he's got a couple bangers to end the season with.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's going to
That's
be
all I
Godzilla
got.
98. And...
Dude, I would shit.
Rob, you can't watch it twice. I mean,
No, you're right. There is a
Godzilla 98
rule.
and The Lodge, but you have to watch both.
That's the
Package deal.
Godzilla rule. Oof, oof. Anything I forgot, gentlemen? Anything you want to throw out there?
no.
I'm good.
All right. Our house is clean.
This house is clean.
I like this heavy prompting. It's
Let's
very
get-
helpful.
Yeah, I'm here for you, buddy.
Clean.
Clean. Let's get into the main event. We are talking about the black phone, and we're kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
All right, the Black Phone. This is a new release, just dropped in theaters on Friday. Runtime of 1 hour and 43 minutes. This is based on a short story that was written by Joe Hill. The screenplay was written by Scott Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill. Directed by Scott Derrickson, stars Mason Thames, Madeline McGraw, Ethan Hawke, who is frequently confused with Kevin Bacon these days, apparently.
I thought it was Kevin Bacon.
I know. You're not alone in that. You really aren't.
Apparently not. That's come up several times. I
Yeah.
even made the mistake after that because you infected my brain.
I've been infected. The plot synopsis brought to us by IMDb is as follows. After being abducted by a child killer and locked in a soundproof basement, a 13-year-old boy starts receiving calls on a disconnected phone from the killer's previous victims. Gentlemen, this is a new release, so obviously a first-time watch for us. Would you recommend people check it out? Randy, kick us off.
Yeah, so I think this movie is going to scratch an itch for people. I think it's going to be pretty widely liked, maybe not widely loved, but maybe widely loved. I don't know. I think it's got broad appeal is I guess what I'm aiming at here. So yeah, I would recommend it to most people. I think it's suitable for pretty much, I don't know, like pretty much any age past like 13 or 14. I think it's pretty okay for that stuff. Yeah, I recommend it.
Right on. Juice, what about you?
Yeah, I would recommend it. I think it's a pretty solid, new summer horror movie going watch. So yeah, go check that out. Bob, how do you feel?
Yes, I definitely recommend this. Very pleasantly surprised. I've said this before. I thought the trailer for this movie was not particularly great. It didn't pique my interest exactly, and I was very pleasantly surprised by the movie when I actually got to see it. So I recommend it. Yeah, check it out. Like Randy said, broad appeal. I think very few people will walk away disappointed by this, I think.
Not disappointed by this?
Well,
No, he doesn't think people are going to walk away disappointed.
I don't.
Correct.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Sorry, I misheard that. I thought you said, I think people
It
are going
really-
to walk away disappointed. It's
Like if you
Yeah.
if you watch the trailer and you feel like that could be good, then you'll probably like it fine.
Yeah.
Like it pretty
Sure.
much is what it's well advertised as what it is, I would say.
That's true.
Yeah,
Even
Yeah,
if
that's
Bob
fair.
didn't like the trailer.
I didn't like it. I didn't.
I actually didn't either. I don't remember
Yeah.
you saying that, but I didn't like the trailer either.
Yeah.
I never
don't
saw
know.
it, so
Okay.
so I saw it after the fact.
It felt weak. You're weak. Watching Seinfeld. Sorry.
Wow.
Mr. Costanza is all over my brain. So yeah, sounds like a pretty solid recommendation from the Straight Chilling crew. Let's go ahead and drop that spoiler warning and get into the rest of the movie. Here we go.
Spoiler warning.
Hit us with it, Bob.
I got the plot. Here we go.
Thank God.
This movie is set in Denver, Colorado, 1978. Several children have gone missing at the hands of a mysterious kidnapper known only as the Grabber. Our main characters are teenage brother and sister Finney and Gwen living with their single alcoholic father. Gwen has dreams about the grabber that contain details that haven't been released by the police. 2 detectives interview her about this at her school. The next morning, Gwen is beaten by her father as the detectives have visited him at work about the same thing. He tells her her dreams don't mean anything, just like her mother's dreams didn't mean anything. After school, Gwen and Finney part ways. Finney is then abducted by the grabber and locked in his soundproof basement with a disconnected black phone hanging on the wall. The phone rings, and when Finney answers, it is Bruce, his classmate who was previously abducted. Bruce tells Finney where to find a loose tile on the floor so he can start digging his way out. He does so. The grabber eventually gives Finney some food and intentionally leaves the door unlocked. The phone rings again, and this time it's another kid, Billy, who lets him know the open door is just a trap and tells him not to go up the stairs. He also tells Finney where to find a cable that he hid. Finney grabs the cable and attempts to climb out through the window, but he's unsuccessful. The phone rings again. I lost my place. This time it's a kid named Griffin who tells Finney where a combination he scratched on the wall is, and that will unlock the door, the front door. The grabber's left the basement door unlocked again. He walks up and finds out he's fallen asleep in his chair. Finney manages to get outside the house and is almost scot-free, but the grabber's dog wakes him up, and Finney is captured once again. The phone rings again, and this time it is Vance, another kid who tells Finney to dig through the wall where you can climb out the back of a freezer and find some freedom. Finney does so, but the freezer's doors are latched and he cannot get out. The phone rings a final time. It is Robin who suggests Finney pack the phone with dirt and use it as a weapon. Gwen contacts the police and takes them to an address she saw in one of her dreams. At the same time, the grabber comes after Finney with an axe, and Finney uses all the help that was given to him to defeat the grabber. He trips the grabber with cable, causing him to fall into the hole he dug, landing on window bars, snapping his ankle. Finney then beats him with the phone and forces him to listen to the receiver as all the previous victims taunt him before Finney snaps his neck. Finney throws a steak from the freezer to the grabber's dog to distract them, and he walks outside to meet his sister and the police, who are across the street investigating the house where the grabber has been burying his victims. Roll them credits.
Yep.
So yeah, there you go.
So we just talked about whether we recommend this movie, and we all generally agree that yes, we do. I do say that there's, to me, quite a few like nagging problems I have with it.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. Okay.
Yeah, like I did
That's
enjoy
good.
myself, and like ultimately, I think that this is a good popcorn horror movie.
Okay.
Like this is an entertaining movie. But
Yeah.
there's like some plot problems, I think, or some like I can't decide whether this movie does too much exposition or not enough. I really oscillate between those two opinions constantly, because at times, like at say the very end, where we're doing the pan out from the street where the cops are giving a press conference and just laying it all out there, like it turns out that the guy had a house across the street, but also had buried in the bodies, like giving like the beat for beat things that we already kind of know too. And like really laying them out there. And I'm like, this feels way expository, like for the people in the back who aren't quite getting it. But then at the same time, we have no explanation or no exploration into the supernatural elements of this, other than it just is. And we have no understanding really of what this guy's deal is.
Yeah,
So,
why?
Yeah. And the thing is, like, for the entertainment factor, those things don't really end up mattering. It just still like, and I think this movie rides heavily on the back of just some A+ child actors doing their fucking job.
I agree with that. I like that we don't get a backstory on the grabber, and like we don't even like know his name. I'm totally fine with all that. I think he's effectively like terrifying, and I think Ethan Hawke fucking kills that role. And you know, we only see his face like very briefly a couple of times because he's just wearing the mask the rest of the time, but his eyes are so menacing, and the way he, you know, moves his body, I think he just kills it, man. And I think it adds to his spookiness that we don't know a whole heck of a lot about him.
I agree with that.
Go ahead, Juice. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say I like the shots that they set up some good tension. Well, they did have a few kind of cheap jump scares, in my opinion. I like the more serial killer aspect where he's sitting in front of the door and waiting, as opposed to kind of the ghosty supernatural, the girl's a medium aspect. That those were like a little, like, I don't know. When I watched this trailer, I didn't really care for it, and then when I watched this movie, I kind of felt the same way about the trailer, but the elements that were good enough to kind of pull me into the, like, yeah, this is good. It's entertaining. I can nitpick and I have story problems and stuff, but it is good. But it's still, there's something I can't quite put my finger on that feels like something very important is missing from this movie. It's like if you made something and realized that if you cooked a meal and realized you didn't put any salt in it, like, yeah, it's still edible, it's still cooked right, temperature wise, but you just didn't add salt. There's something about this movie to me like that. I'm just like, what is missing, or what
it's
is
missing? Yabo.
Salt.
Well, I don't know.
I would argue that the salt is all there. It's maybe over salted, but it does not have the substance underneath necessarily.
Not enough fresh
Too
cracked
much
pepper
salt.
on this.
Too much salt, not enough
protein,
tortilla, whatever.
Protein, Randy.
Yeah, not enough protein. Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like I agree wholeheartedly about the supernatural aspects. I understand that gives this movie a lot of like license for visual flair. It gives it some storytelling beats that I don't know what they would do instead. I'm sure there's other options, but my thought the whole time was like, okay, I don't really understand where this supernatural element is coming from. We never really find out what happens with the mom, or why she had killed herself, or like any of the relationship with her dad. It just seems like, to me, if you excised that whole thing from this movie and instead had some sort of other like notes hidden in the walls or some shit like that from the other kids for like detailing their exploits, something like that. I don't know. To me, it like the compelling part is this kid is trying to escape. It's an escape movie. It's like, I don't particularly see like thematically what is being gained by having that element in there.
I actually agree with that. And as you're speaking, I'm thinking to myself, one of the things that really kind of stood out strong, Rob was saying the child acting, but also there's some heart here. And so, the brother and sister aspect, it's even specifically stated out. And I wish, I was as close with my sister as you are. So a little too on the nose there, but that really was the heart of this film. However, I'm thinking to myself now, I kind of almost would have preferred if the medium aspect wasn't there, because it really didn't actually affect the end story.
No,
and I kind of wish they cut that out, and instead, above all odds, this little girl kind of plays detective. She's so dedicated to her brother. You could even have her dad discouraging her, it's not safe to go out there. You need to stay home. The cops just aren't doing it. And she's looking around, and you could come to the same conclusion. She comes to the house and she's like, my brother's in there, call the cops, you guys show up or whatever. I think that would have worked better and left a lot less question marks.
The only downside to that is that you don't get the ghostly apparitions, which offer a lot of like cool jump scares. I think the jump scares in this were effective. Like I jumped I saw this movie twice, and both times they got me. So that speaks, like, and it's been a while since people have relied, or I've seen a movie that capably relied on the jump scare in recent years, because it's so maligned nowadays, not without good reason. But anyway, all that aside, I agree with you, Juice, that it's like, I feel like if you want to have a supernatural element, why not have these kids have a telepathic link of some kind or something, and then let the girl do the detective work to figure things out, and the boy be able to feed her tidbits, and then vice versa. She feeds him tidbits about, if you look in certain wall sockets, you can find this piece of material that you can use as a rope or something like that. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like there's what they did just. I'm unclear why, like why narratively that was the case. Like, these kids are just abused kids. Jeremy Davies beats the shit out of that little girl. It's very hard to watch, actually. Maybe the hardest part of the movie to watch. And it's like, because his wife killed herself and she has like dreams, like I just don't know what they're going for with that, besides just laying out
I get that
story.
Yeah, I mean, that narrative beat makes since the dad is mourning, has become an alcoholic. He's trying his
I just don't know what's in service to.
Yeah, I don't either. I kind of agree with that. And I just it's hard too, because I keep coming up with these critiques, and like some of these films do, they have this kind of shield built around them, where this is based off of a short story. And so I think one of the things I wanted to critique too about the trailer, and how I still kind of feel about this, which is difficult, but in some ways I couldn't just help think this feels like that last 15-minute beat of Coraline, where she's talking to ghosts and they help her solve the problem. Okay, Coraline, in the same way that you were kind of talking about Possum recently, of, you know, the Babadook, oh, I feel like this has really influenced this. I couldn't get that out of my mind. I couldn't get the idea of these ghosts helping the girl solve the problem in order to free their spirits or whatever. It would just bring me back to Coraline. But I was looking, and Coraline was made in 2009. The short story was written in 2004. Now, I haven't read the short story, so I don't know how loyal they were. But I'm like, okay, well, you can't knock that. But I would, like, from a film standpoint, I want to, you know, and in the same way, if they're sticking to the short story and they're saying, oh, well, that's just how it was written, it's like, that's fine. But I also want to kind of critique the film for it as well. So it's kind of difficult sometimes.
From what I understand, the short story was essentially the second act of this, and they had to build out the beginning and the end of it, really, to make it like a
second
like
act.
a
You
full.
mean like post grab?
You mean like he's already in the basement?
So. I think so. It might start from when he was grabbed. I don't know. I haven't read it. Probably should have. But I think it's primarily about the ghosty kids helping this kid get out of the basement.
Okay.
Skeleton twins.
Okay.
By the way, Coraline. I don't remember the book or the movie well enough to like comment on the connection between Coraline and this movie, but I can tell you that Coraline, the novel, the book, came out in 2002.
Oh, okay. Well, that
worth.
kind of I didn't realize. I honestly did not realize that Coraline the film was based on a Coraline book. I did not know that.
Oh, it's a Neil Gaiman book, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then I feel a little more justified.
But then again, like all that said, like I don't know that that's necessarily like something that's tied to Coraline either. Like I don't think that's. I think maybe that's like trope more than it is copying.
Yeah,
but
could be.
I don't know. I'm kind of in the same area as you, Juice. Like there are things about this movie that made me feel like, okay, well, I'm enjoying myself, but I don't know what they're driving at. I felt that a lot. Like, I didn't know like what the substance underneath was supposed to be. If there was supposed to be that, then it really seemed like it was going for some sort of something to me.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to something like, A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 9 or some shit, like something that's way deep down the line where, it's just about spectacle. This movie didn't feel like it was going for just spectacle to me. It felt like it was going for a human story. But the only like thing that really happened was it became a revenge tale, which is fine, but it just doesn't really it doesn't necessarily justify the blend of supernatural and like true crime aspects. I was just so much more interested in the grabber and his operating procedures and his mind or whatever and all that stuff than I was, the ability to see your dreams. And we never I don't know. I think we did get to see into the dreams. It was just kind of strange. And
Scott Derrickson's thing, like that he typically plays with, is introducing some sort of like spirituality into his movies and the characters in his movies. He was like a very devout Christian. I guess when he was younger, he went to Biola University, which is a private Christian school in California. And I think after he graduated from that college, he sort of had a bit of a turn where he I think separated himself from Christianity, but remained like very spiritual. I was listening to an interview with him that I found to be very interesting. And I pulled a quote that I think sort of gets at kind of what this movie is doing and maybe where it fails a little bit. But he says he can't separate spirituality from art. And I guess the intersection of those two things often lies in the horrific, and that kind of like sums up this movie and a lot of his other movies, like Sinister, Deliver Us from Evil is another one that he did, and they all kind of have this through line of sort of spirituality. It's not like outright Christianity. Like in this movie, the little girl does pray to Jesus, but she also like questions him in a very hilarious way, where she's like, "Dear Jesus, what the fuck?" You know?
Yeah.
Like there's, I don't know, there's sort of like this vague spirituality in this movie that I think, like you guys are saying, it doesn't quite get at a point, but it just sort of is baked into, I think, the way he wants to make movies. Which I don't know that that's necessarily good or bad, but
he did that too. I was just looking, he did The Exorcism of Emily Rose, and he did kind of a similar type of thing where a religious person who is very kind of devout gets possessed. So, and starts to question, why is this happening to me? But the problem is, in that aspect, is it wasn't the character we were following. So when it's kind of a side character, and it doesn't necessarily lead to anything, it then feels structurally kind of weak.
Well, I mean, he does. Like our main character, Finney, like the sheer fact that he gets those phone calls means that he's connected to the supernatural at that point. And I think that like what is being said, what unless he imagined it, I guess, unless you have another explanation.
Well, that's a problem I have with this film, because I think the first phone call that he gets mentions, so this was really bothered me actually, because they take the time to mention it, that the grabber can hear the phone
I'm glad you
ringing.
brought that up.
They specifically mentioned that, and it plays into the story 0% from what I could tell.
No, I agree with, like, well, the only thing it plays into is it sets him up to be able to hear the ghosts on the other end of the phone when he's getting
at the
his
very end. That's true.
Which, why not just do that? Like at that point, like I feel the same way. I was really hung up on that as well. But also, like, thinking about the grabber as well, like, okay, you have this really abusive piece of shit dad that they live with, deadbeat dad, drunk, and you've got this grabber, and both of them beat kids with a belt within an inch of their life. I think they're trying to draw a parallel there, but I don't know why. Like, I don't know. At the end, the dad like begs for forgiveness from his kids and seemingly gets it. They didn't say that outright, but it's like, I feel like there's machinations here to make some sort of, to make these connections. I don't think I'm connecting these dots by accident. I think they're there for us to connect, and I don't know what the purpose of them is.
I think Scott Derrickson is really just trying to tell us that we should not be naughty boys. That's the point of the movie.
Well, I mean,
okay
for that.
So that's another good point, though. Randy's right. They set up these things to connect these dots and have it meaningful. But I don't feel like the movie ever does that. And I'm definitely not one of those kind of people who's like, I want you to really paint it out for me in the end, really exposition what it is. But I don't think they make the connections, because the implication is there. That was great that you pointed out the idea of the dad beating the kids, and then this aspect, and they could have drawn the connection to the phone in this kind of way, because the implication is, the naughty boy thing would be that this guy suffered child abuse in that same basement. Maybe his dad beat him there, because he say he grew up in this house, because he's talking about the phone and he's like, it doesn't work. It hasn't worked in a long time. And I was down here. I thought he said something about being down there as a kid. And
I think he did too.
And so in that way, you're thinking, okay, there's some kind of connection here. But they never make that matter in any kind of way. They never
explore that. Exactly. They never have a moment where the grabber like is talking with Finney and is like suddenly like has a pang of recognition of himself and the character of Finney or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't seem like that happens. And it seems like that's what would logically be set up there. Cause I agree. Like my takeaway from that was the same, where it's like, okay, well, this is maybe a story about how abuse is cyclical and how, an abused child becomes an abuser, and maybe even worse. And you've got this brother, these two brothers, two siblings, just like him and his sister, who at least one of them, at least the grabber himself, has some sort of connection with the supernatural. If he's able to hear the ringing of the phone, he's just rejecting it. That's what the ghosts say, is like, oh, he just pretends it doesn't happen or some shit like that. So like he's rejecting his spirituality, and that's what causes him a fall from grace, I guess. But like, I don't know. I really feel like I'm doing the extra work there.
I agree. Yeah.
What did you guys think about the mask design in this movie?
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no complaint.
Tom Savini.
It's a little like. Sorry, go ahead.
I would say Tom Savini designed it. And I guess he had some sort of rule, like his one rule, he's worked on so many different horror movies, but I guess he didn't want to work on a movie where like children specifically were exploited, which is definitely the case in this movie. But I guess after he like read the whole script and, saw in the end where like these kids are sort of like helping, take power back and like, liberate this last kid that straight up murders the grabber, he felt all right working on the movie, so he made this mask design. I love it, man. I love how it's two pieces and you can like swap out the mouth and make him look happy.
It's Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah,
shit.
I like that too.
Yeah.
And
I think it.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I like. Okay, choose. You go.
Okay. Well, I really like the design, and they use it well in a couple moments, especially when he was in the shadows that one time and he comes out, it's got the frown on it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The switch, the one that has no mouth but still is a piece or whatever.
Yeah.
It was very well designed, and I liked in the end where he was ultimately affected by being seen by his victim. But that felt a little bit like a hole too, because, or I need to understand why, because obviously this man lives out in society. People see him without this mask on all the time. He has this severe reaction at the very end when the victim sees his face, but I don't think that was set up well, and I don't think there's any kind of good explanation surrounding that. It was just something that happened. And so I think in the way that Rob said, I don't want to know the backstory of this grabber. I don't necessarily either. I think it's always good to leave a mystery around a character like this that's so distinct in their physical design. But this one, especially when you're dealing with serial killers, it needs to have a little bit more, in my opinion, psychological background.
I think in this movie in particular, because of the reason we were talking about, like where to me, it's like, if you're going to try and make a parallel between your killer and your victim, you need to know a little background about your killer to make that happen.
Yeah.
And we know a little bit about him. We know enough to make a connection, but we don't know like exactly what is being said. Or at least I don't. I feel like I'm making the connections work for this movie rather than the other way around.
Yeah.
And as far as the mask goes, I really do love the mask. It's truly it's an iconic mask that I think you're going to see quite a few of them on Halloween. I think there's going to be no shortage of them. And certainly if this movie does well enough, I'm sure they'll make a terrible sequel or two. So,
the grave.
So I think it's the mask is gonna have a life outside of the movie. But yeah, like as far as like the pathos of this character seems really important to know if we're going to be making this connection to the victim directly. And we just don't really get a full picture of that. The idea that he like screams in horror and almost pain when the mask is removed at the end of the movie, even as his leg is broken, the thing that he's, oh my face.
Yeah,
I think he says my face, which is a very like comic booky reaction. That's like, just, I don't know. It doesn't, to me, it seems kind of out of nowhere. Like I could understand that being a piece of the pragmatic killer's workings, even if he's psychologically damaged, but that just seems like it's not set up at all. And that's how the kid succeeds at the end. He would not have made it if he didn't take that mask off and the guy didn't freak out.
Yeah, that's true. It's a bit of a hole for sure. It's a plot convenience, so I guess Vinny can get away and get the upper hand, which it doesn't bother. Like I don't disagree with these at all, but I guess they don't ultimately bother me too much. Like the movie could have been tighter and could have driven a message home and could have been like a home run. It's just not quite there. And maybe it's because they took the core of that short story and just sort of like filled out the beginning and the end. It wasn't
stretched it. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't like written intentionally from the start to have this parallel, connected, and they kind of tried to add it later after the fact, I could see that being an issue. And maybe like Joe Hill didn't want something like that to be added to his story. Who knows? I'm totally speculating here. I don't know. Overall, like they don't bother me too much, but I see the points you guys are making, and I do agree. It could have could have been more impactful for sure.
Yeah, I feel like pretty simple. Like again, like this is still an enjoyable movie. I walked out of this satisfied with what I got. I feel like I got largely what I anticipated I was going to get, which is an entertaining movie about kids being abducted by a dude in a spooky mask. And then, well, it's entertaining in the fact that like it can justify that title by, like you said, like Tom Savini was hinging on the fact that it becomes ultimately a successful revenge movie at the end of the day for all these kids that got grabbed. But here's another thing is like, and maybe this was a concession on that front, but is the grabber supposed to be sexually molesting these kids?
I don't know, man. It's really vague because there is that one moment where Finn wakes up and the grabber's just watching him sleep, and he's like, "What the hell are you doing?" He's like, "I just wanted to look at you," and it's like it's pretty creepy. So like, I don't know, maybe.
See, that's the thing is like, if it wasn't for that scene, I could be like, okay, so this guy, it's really just more violence based. It's more, you know, it's not about like getting, at least not like directly sexual. It's sexual. It's just related to his brain.
It seems kind of sexual. It seems kind of sexual when they always pan to the moment when he's waiting for them to come out to beat them and he's shirtless, because he's not shirtless when he goes down there. And when he's
naughty boy,
when he's ready to punish them and he's not wearing a lot of clothes, that seems.
And one of the ghosts, when he's getting warned by Billy or whoever it was, the Billy or whatever that ghost was, is like, he's like, he wants you to play naughty boy, and you know, like he can't continue unless you play the game with him.
Yeah,
he can't go on to what's next. And Finney goes, "What's next?" He's like, "You don't want to know." So that could be, it could be just the beatings, or that could be something else.
Anything, I love Ethan Hawke's voice that he does with this character, because it sort of goes back and forth between this like very like high-pitched whimsical kind of like squirrely voice, and then he'll drop down to this like very low like growly gravelly type thing. It kind of goes back and forth between them. Like really menacing the way he portrays this character. I love it. Also, I love like the town that they live in, like the whole like town just feels like, you know, middle America, like very lived in, very grounded. These kids are fucking ruthless, but also like believable at the same time. They're like latchkey kids kind of taking care of themselves, you know, riding their bikes in the streets and stuff. It just feels like very grounded. The neighborhood like feels like a real ass neighborhood to me, which I really liked.
Yeah, it feels like the 70s, like as far as I can tell from somebody who didn't live it. To me, it feels very much like what I imagine that to be like for a kid in middle America, and right down to like the way the kids are talking and whatever. Like there's a few like verbal cues that make me feel like, well, that's a little bit of a modern phrase or something like that.
The fart knocker drop.
I don't know if fart knocker. I have no idea the longevity. I don't know the etymology of fart knocker.
What's the etymology of fart knocker?
But like I can't remember what it was, but there was one thing in particular, or maybe two, where I was like, that seems like something that is like a more modern parlance thing. But still, like nevertheless, like for the most part, the way these kids talk, I remember I was thinking in this movie about Summer of '84, which is a movie that I didn't particularly love. But one of the big things there, my sticking points for me is like, man, these kids are cursing like an adult curses, and not like, or like they think, and like this doesn't feel like kids testing the water. It seems like an adult writer writing curse words for kids to say, and that's what this movie succeeds at. Is it felt to me like the level of vulgarity that kids in this time and place would be adept at, and that seemed naturally to offshoot from them, and they knew they were transgressing when they did it. So I don't know. I like those things made it feel really like lived in, like you said, in my opinion.
The attitude. There's a couple moments in here where I felt a little eye rolly with how the dialogue, since you brought up how it's written in the dialogue. A couple times was with the girl and how it was delivered, and then also too with the brother and the cocaine. This was almost kind of like a Bon Me type moment, or it really did remind me of the comedy elements they tried to infuse in that Halloween movie, Halloween, oh God, what did the first one, 2018?
2018,
Okay,
yeah.
2018. And where the guy comes in, he's doing coke or whatever, and he's freaking out. And they did tie it into where, oh, this is his brother, but just the beat of that, and then a couple beats of the girl just felt kind of try hard to me. I don't know why that stuff kind of bothers me in some way, but that's how I felt. I just felt too try hard.
I felt that way in the first scene where she's getting interviewed by the police. Like, I understand her like lashing out maybe once or whatever, but they really let the girl kind of like go off to a level where no school principal's going to sit there and not like talk to the kid and be like, you shut that up right now. We're not doing that. Like, I don't know, that felt a little bit not, I don't know if it was try hard so much as it was just like just let this happen. We need this beat. Like,
I thought it was hilarious, honestly.
Look, and that's the thing.
Realistic, but funny.
See, I think that's the thing. It's manufactured. Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
And
it's a little bit hollow feeling, but it still is entertaining for just on nuts and bolts of what's being said. It is hilarious to see a kid speak that way to a police officer.
That's the thing. I feel like Marvel has opened up this floodgate of where, because the people know that they're going to get these ridiculous quips now ever since fucking Josh Whedon came in. And yet
Josh Whedon's.
Yeah. Well,
thanks, Josh.
Old Josh. You fucker. Joshua Whedon.
Scott Derrickson did direct the first
Doctor Strange,
which is a pretty quippy one.
So he went through the school of the MCU, and maybe that rubbed off a little bit.
But I think it's the same kind of idea of, we know it's coming. It's so manufactured, but because it's charming enough, you can't, but it just feels.
It depends on the performance,
plasticky a little bit.
Yeah.
I think she does a great job with that material as an actress.
She does.
That's the reason that it is enjoyable.
Yeah. And then it makes you want to find her endearing.
Right.
Yeah. But then again, it's like manipulating your emotion. Yeah, exactly. And Bob's pretty easy to play.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Tell it to Threads.
You are.
Tell it to Threads.
I mean, his favorite Stranger Things is season 3. Come on.
Dude, it's so good.
That's the quippiest.
Exactly.
Probably. This girl, the girl that plays Gwen, what is the actress's name? I gotta find it. She was hired for the job, and there was some sort of Madeline McGraw is her name. There was some sort of like conflict with scheduling to where she was hired for the job, but she couldn't make it at the start date. And Derrickson went to Jason Blum. This is a Blumhouse joint. Went to Jason Blum and was like, "Hey man, like the little girl that we hired can't do it." He's like, "I'm not making this movie without her." And Jason Blum was like, "Are you sure?" And he's like, "Yeah." So Jason let him like push the start date back 6 months. The movie was delayed for 6 months just to make sure she could be in it.
That's
nice. And honestly, like, she kills it. Like, I kind of get why.
Yeah, I mean, she does. You could do a fuck ton worse.
Certainly.
I think you could find somebody comparable, but like with kid actors in particular, that is a tough game. So I get it.
Yeah,
it's tough for me because it's hard. I think she does a good job. I don't know if the character is necessary. The character, in a way, because of those moments, feels slightly manufactured. So it's hard. I keep going behind those things of like, this is how some person, I can't help but see the writer behind this person. The girl and the character herself, I like, but also too, it's so manufactured that also there's just kind of this shadow ghost of an just a man writer, ghosted onto it. You know what I'm saying?
He exercised this writer from this little girl.
I just, what I'm saying? I can't fully separate.
Yeah.
I can't fully get into this character and be like, this is the character. She's completely becoming the character. I can't get rid of that manufactured element.
Like, that seems true to me as well. And I think that might also just be kind of like, this is at the end of the day, I feel like this movie fits into the sinister realm, and the sinister, the insidious is that realm very nicely. And all of those have elements of that to me. Even the best ones have a few characters that just seem kind of like, I don't know, very manufactured feeling. And I feel like there's some of that with her, but because she is so charmingly adept at doing what she's written to do, I think that we kind of like give it a pass to some extent. But you're right to say like her, what is her arc really besides those, like she kind of embraces, she loses faith in Christ, but gains faith in her own powers and gets permission from dad to pursue those powers despite having been beaten with an inch of her life several times over the issue. I mean, I don't understand. I just don't understand what's being driven at, and I don't know what the value of it is without. It feels very separate to me. I will say that like the actor who plays Finney, I think his name is Mason something. I just saw it. Mason Thames.
Yeah.
Tim's. Yeah, he I think is an even better actor. Like he fucking like honestly, like I see none of the manufactured feeling from him that I get from her character. And I think it's because his character is just in a situation that's easier for us to wrap our head around. It's not convoluted in the, oh, it's spiritual powers, but is it spiritual powers? Or is it like, I don't know. There's none of that. It's just like, I need to escape. Like the simplicity of what he's driving towards really, and him being like needing to stand up for himself. That's a very, very, very universal story for most people. So I think that makes the actors like challenge that much easier. And so his excellence like just shines even more to me.
I realized when we were having this conversation about the manufactured and separating the characters from the writing and the acting and stuff like that, I was like, we're going to have a very similar discussion next week.
Yeah, we probably will.
Listen to the end to find out what that's about.
Yeah. Did you guys watch Righteous Gemstones, right?
Yeah.
A few episodes, but not all the way, no.
You probably would have picked up on this. Just you might have the character Moose, who's the kid that gets the absolute shit beaten out of him at the beginning of the movie.
Okay, yeah,
The kind of bigger bully kid. He is in the Righteous Gemstones. He's Danny McBride. Whenever they do a flashback and he's younger, he's played by this guy. J. Gavin Wild is the actor's name.
Damn, I did not pick up on. He looks
that
bigger
kid's
in
voice
this
is
film.
Amazing.
Yeah,
I don't know. There's something about his voice. It's like it feels like, I don't know. It reminded me of like maybe like bully characters in like cartoons. He just has that perfect cadence.
In the Righteous Gemstones, he plays a young Danny McBride so well.
He really does. He's got the same mannerisms.
Yeah,
and like cadence.
He kills it. He really
get off my stoop, motherfucker. That sort of shit. Like, I don't know.
That's cool. I didn't pick up on that. I really liked the we don't get a lot of the other victims, and I thought that was something maybe else we could have experienced. But I like the Kung Fu kid, the little bit that we got from him. That was a cool, nice little kind of relationship that they had.
Love Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
But even that was kind of part of it too, of the other kids' elements. I feel like, to draw another food comparison, and actually kind of fits with Randy's salt explanation, and that might be warranted. This movie kind of feels like a Golden Corral. Okay. It gives you a little bit of this.
That's cruel.
Well, hang on. It gives you a little bit of this, and it gives you a little bit of that. And while the meal is, you can get some really good elements out of it, it ultimately feels like I wish I would have just had this one good meal over here. I wish I could have focused on this one instead of trying to have a couple different things. So, I think the paranormal aspect hinders or cuts away some of the kid kidnapping aspects or the serial killer aspects, developing that more. And I think that some of the other elements don't leave enough time to fully develop out the paranormal aspect. What's up with this phone? Can the guy hear it? And those kinds of things. is it brought on by trauma? Maybe because these kids have been beaten by their dad, their mom killed herself. Did this guy experience some kind of thing? And that's kind of what inspired when they were young. But we don't know because neither one of these aspects is fully developed. They want to give you a little bit of elements of this, and they're good. And they want to give you a little bit of elements of this, they're good. But maybe they're a little filled out with salt, and they're not quite. Yeah, they're not
just like the Golden Corral.
Just like
it's more like
those
the Sizzler. I'll give it the Sizzler.
For those who do not, those who we do have listeners outside of the deep south of the United States. So for those wondering, a Golden Corral is essentially a feeding trough for people.
Feeding trough.
It's a buffet, Randy.
Yeah, you can get pizza and mac and cheese and fried chicken and steak.
And none of it will be all that good, and most of it will make you hurt after.
Shit in your pants. You're shitting in your car on the ride home. That's,
but you
just ate you 14 buttered rolls and you're shitting your pants.
One trough to the other.
Buttered rolls. Honeyed buttered rolls.
They're so good.
That's so good.
And then you ate ice cream.
There are other places with yeast rolls, guys.
Soft serve goes in and comes right out.
It comes out somehow softer.
Put gummy bears in your soft serve.
That's God's soft serve right there.
It's like nothing I'd ever smelled before in my life.
Dude, when I was growing up and we went to church, dude, after every Sunday when I was young, we'd always stop by like a Ryan's or Quincy's.
Dude, me too. When I was very young, Quincy's or Ryan's. It's those two. That's the church people place. That's the Southern Baptist place. All right, kids, load up.
My family wasn't much of a corral fam, but I mean, I've been there a handful of times. I've been with the boys a handful of times.
Yeah, it's a special place.
Amongst my many protests.
I could put candy corn on my ice cream. I mean, that's a special place.
Oh, man.
Dude, yeah. Between that and CC's, y'all had me over a fucking barrel.
Fucking CC's.
Dude, when you're broke in college,
yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
It's not gonna make me any less broke to have to buy Pepto-Bismol.
Randy, they have a mac and cheese pizza. They have a taco.
Yeah,
pizza.
I'm aware of the abomination.
What more do you want?
A dessert pizza.
It's got icing on it, Randy. Come on.
We have lost the track.
No place to get that besides CC's. No place to get icing. You put icing on bread, and what some people might call that is cake.
Or a cinnamon bun.
You're way out of line, Randy.
Or a pastry. Just get me a pastry from somewhere that does not pull it out of a fucking Costco bargain bin.
Oh man,
we could land the plane. I think we touched on most everything in this movie. Is there anything you guys want to talk about before we rate it?
We could keep talking about Ryan's for another hour.
Dude, let's bring it back. That's a good analogy.
That sounds like it's time for ratings. Let's go ahead and do this. Out of 5, Juice, why don't you kick us off? How do you feel about the black phone?
I feel okay. Good in general. I didn't want to bring up these kind of negative feelings in my recommendation because it's a new movie and it's solid. Now, where I have seen some things, you guys were like, we really should cover this movie, and I understand that. I do think it's got some general broad appeal, but I've been seeing some people like pop up in the Slack and saying, like Wes was saying, like there was a standing ovation at the end. I was like, I don't think it's
at the movie festival
that good. I get people liking this movie, and I get the ending of being, but I really think that this movie it's got a bit of a manufactured feel to it. The good elements, the design. The design is good. Kevin Bacon kills it. I'm just Ethan Hawke really.
Bacon, yeah. We love your work.
Ethan Hawke really does a good job in bringing this character to life and this kind of mask to life. I think the mask is cool, but you really do need something behind it, the eyes, the kind of voice, the personality to bring it to life. And I think that he does that well. all the kid actors and actresses do a really good job. I did like the heart between the brother and the sister. So those were the positives. Some of the negatives, there was even some things we didn't touch on. For instance, this was bothering the shit out of me. Okay, so 3 of the kids that we know he grabbed. One of them was that baseball kid, and he was like a bigger kind of kid. Another one was that kind of bully kid that we see playing pinball or whatever. And the other one's the kung fu kid. Okay, he's put these kids down there, and even with Finn, or what, that's his name, right? Finn.
Yeah.
Okay. Even when he does that, there are so many weapons down there. For instance, when he takes the back of the toilet off and busts through a concrete wall with that, I was like, why has nobody stood behind the door with that fucking toilet thing ready to whack that dude in the fucking skull? Like, none of these kids who, like, one's bigger, one is like fucking ready to fight. And 2 of them are like ready to fight, and he leaves glass bottles down there several times.
Yeah, I
I
thought
see
about
glass
that too.
bottles breaking. It's
Mhm.
like somebody would have fucking it's not that they weren't able to kill him or get, but the whole idea is these victims are trying to piece together for this kid almost like this puzzle of how you can escape. And I was like, one of these fuckers would have tried this to the point where that guy wouldn't leave glass bottles down there anymore, or he wouldn't leave a fucking porcelain toilet seat down there. Those kind of, or also too, when he busts through, and you can, if you open the freezer, you would see a giant hole in the wall. Now, you know, that might not match up with the timeline, but I was just thinking, like, there's too many holes in this serial killer aspect that just don't make sense. And then there's a ton of holes in the paranormal aspect that don't make sense either. It bugged the shit out of me that they said he can hear the phone too. And it didn't really matter or do anything. I don't necessarily need an explanation for the phone or why it works, but don't kind of throw that little tidbit at me and not make it matter at all. Also, you know, ultimately the sister's whole experience doesn't really matter. You know, it does give us some cool visuals and windows into the victims and stuff like that, but I don't know, there's just, this thing is full of holes. And while it's just a general, like, decent viewing, to think about it kind of bugs the shit out of me. So I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5. It's still gonna land on a positive. I don't think it's gonna be split, but it is seriously capped. It's very capped. And so yeah, 3 out of 5 for me. Bo Bear, out of 5. How do you feel about the big black phone of time?
Big black phone of time. I feel overall pretty positive about it. I think the acting, specifically from these kids, is amazing. Ethan Hawke does a great job, even though we can't see his face. I absolutely love the mask design. It's like the most memorable mask, I think, since like Scream, really. Like, you know, most of the really memorable masks came out, you know, in like the 80s, 70s, but like this really sticks out to me. I love the design. I think Tom Savini killed it. I like the blending of the ghost story and the like kidnapper serial killer guy. Like, it's an interesting sort of blend. I don't think they nail it. I mean, we've covered it for sure, but I think that's a cool idea to blend those two ideas. I think there's a handful of legitimate jump scares in this, and they don't overdo it. I think they ride that line just enough where you jump in your seat a handful of times, and it's effective in a way that doesn't feel very cheap. The sort of like more comedic beats with the brother, old Ziggy Sabaka, popping up doing
Ziggy.
Oh yeah.
And the little girl, even if it does feel a little manufactured, a little rote, I think it's fucking hilarious that she's popping off on these cops and like she's bashing kids in the faces with the rocks, and like, I don't know. I love the badassery of that character, even though it is a little far-fetched. But unfortunately, I think, yeah, the biggest issue with this is that like you could essentially remove the sister from the story, and it just really wouldn't affect a whole hell of a lot. which is a total bummer. Overall, like the ride is enjoyable though. I think this is definitely a very well-made movie, and I think the story is interesting enough, even if it doesn't wholly get at what I think it's trying to get at. I think it's definitely worth watching still. I'm gonna give it a 3.5 out of 5. Randy, how do you feel?
Well, yeah, I think we're all on the right side of this argument here. I pretty much agree generally with everything you guys are saying as we've been talking about. I feel like my enjoyment factor, I think, sort of matches Bob's. I think like the level to which I enjoyed the entertaining aspects of this movie, I think are on about the same level, where it's like, this is just so entertaining. I loved the jump scares. I loved, seeing this guy get his comeuppance. I liked a few of the quippy one-liners, even if they felt like a little bit of an easy well to draw from these days, maybe is what it is. Maybe it's really a fault with movie makers in general right now and not so much of this movie. That's possible. But to me, like the problems with the plot and sort of like the disconnectedness, I just feel like this movie, it expands in sort of like odd directions what is a core story that really works. And that is the story of Finney finding his legs as a self-sustaining person who can defend himself, using the riding on the backs of giants, of people who, who have lived through horrible things before, who know how to fight or whatever. He had to acquire his nerve and his skills and his intelligence and put it all together and recreate himself as a capable person who is able to take care of himself. The little girl, like she does, ultimately, that nothing saves him but himself, ultimately. And that story is the compelling one. His interactions with the grabber are the interesting one. I would have been interested to see what the parallels between his dad and the grabber actually are. But I feel like it doesn't really have time to spend with that and keep it as tight and flowy as it needs to be, because we are dually focused on the little girl and the supernatural aspects she's into that ultimately don't have much of a payoff. So at the end of the day, I just feel like it's a movie that, is enjoyable, and that I think most people will sit and watch and say like, that was a good movie. I had a good time. I think it's broadly appealing in that it is pretty much what you expect to see from a horror movie, but done relatively capably. But it has its drawbacks, and those drawbacks, for somebody who like is looking at movies the way we do, it kind of leaves a little bit of a stain on it for me. Not a juice stain though, of course.
Whoa.
So ultimately, I think I'm gonna live on the same plane as Justin and give it a 3. I am the number one thing now to me is that I am terrified that they are going to make a sequel where they either explain that, fucking Ethan Hawke's in the Cult of Thorn or some shit,
Nah.
or the kids are going to become the baby Warren family or some shit. Like
you're getting a collect call from the Further. Do you accept the charges?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, yeah. Do you accept the charges from death?
Yeah, that's true.
I just worry that they're gonna milk any success dry, like any horror movie does, and it's gonna have diminishing returns. And on a movie that's right on the tipping point of being good or bad, to me, like it's not gonna go well, I don't think.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's not to do with this movie though. It's a 3-star for me.
All right, with Randy's 3-star, that's going to put our aggregate at a 3.2. Let's jump into our Rotten Tomatoes segment, see what the critics and users think about the Black Phone.
Certified fresh to death.
All right, ladies and gents, this is the Rotten Tomatoes segment in which I'm going to have these two gentlemen guess within the best of their abilities what the aggregate positive ratings are for The Black Phone on RottenTomatoes.com. We're going to start with the critics, then move on to the audience. We'll start with Bob today. For the critics, we have 162 critic reviews counted so far, and this one is very freshly rated, so very freshly released, I should say. So I'm sure these numbers will go up over time and these numbers will change overall. But for the time being, Bob, what do you think those 162 reviews aggregated to?
I think this will be largely positive. I don't. It's hard for me to imagine critics like really coming down hard on this, or a lot of them, anyways. So I'm going to go with an 80 on this one.
All right, 80%. Juice, how about you? You going over? You going under? Where are you going?
80. That's right at the tipping point because I do think it's going to be high. I've seen a lot of positive buzz about this. I just don't know. I mean, this guy, it looks like he's got a good kind of reputation with the movies that he's made. Day the Earth Stood Still, Exorcism of Emily Rose, Doctor Strange. So I think he's got a generally positive reputation. 80. It's a little high. I'll dip it down. I'll say 79.
79. All right. Well, Bob, congratulations on your big win. It's an 85% certified.
Oh,
credit.
yeah. Let me get that hell.
Mosquito.
No, don't make me say. Don't make me say the phrase I invented. Yeah. All right, Juice, we're going to start with you for our audience score, our user score. There are over 1,000 plus verified ratings on Rotten Tomatoes right now. What do you think that those 1,000 plus reviews aggregate to?
I'm going to take it to the moon. Fuck it. People seem to be all over this movie, digging it. So I'll take the same. I'll say 85. 85.
Okay. Bob, how about you?
Fuck it, to the moon, bro.
To the moon.
Ethan Hawke's flying straight to the moon, bro.
Kevin Bacon to the moon.
God damn. We do not need to get into the NFT colloquialisms today.
I'm gonna $1 out with an 86. Go!
Ooh, 86. All right. Bob.
Yeah.
You swept it, buddy. It's a 90% positive.
Steamrolling Bob over here. Can I get a hell sweet?
Oh boy.
Ooh, she's a fancy flatcher.
Oh, more
Yeah,
like steam pile, huh, Bob?
Steam pile.
So there you go, guys.
All right.
The critics' consensus reads as follows. The Black Phone might have been even more frightening, but it remains an entertaining, well-acted adaptation of scarily good source material. I don't know much about the source material, but everything else in there, I think, pretty much holds true.
What was it? 94? That's so high.
No, it was 85 for critics, 90 for
90
users.
Okay. Still pretty high, but
That's still pretty high. But I think this, I mean, if you're not looking at this literally, not looking at it as a critic, with the intention of critiquing it, you're not necessarily going to spend as much time dwelling on the problems that we do.
It's true. That's true.
You can just enjoy your life.
I know. What does that feel like?
We lost that ability.
To not be so critical of everything all the time.
Wow. To the beast.
Yep. So that's our Rotten Tomatoes. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. We do want to read one negative review from the audience, as we usually do. Sometimes they're funny. Here's one that I thought was funny, but it's hard to describe why without just seeing it. So I'll try though. So it starts with a close bracket, and then it says, in all lowercase, what is what the criminals, and then 6 exclamation points, past was and what caused it. Communications from deceased souls, another 6 exclamation points. Very silly.
Very silly.
Wow.
Very silly. What is what the criminals past was and caused it. Communications from deceased souls. Very silly.
Okay.
Put that on a bumper sticker.
Half star.
Half star. Damn.
Half
star.
For the confusion.
Very
star.
It's not particularly silly.
No.
I don't think this is a native English speaker. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. That's our Rotten Tomatoes segment.
Oh,
all right. Oh my lord. I have a few bits of trivia. Let's go ahead and jump into it.
It's totally time for trivia.
Gentlemen, totally time for trivia. This movie has been coming out for fucking ever.
Yeah.
So the marketing campaign started from Universal on August 25th, 2021. Was when they first released the trailer. It was originally set for release on January 28th of 2022, got pushed February 4th, and it was delayed yet again and finally came out on June 24th, 2022. So
Dude, this came out in January. This would have been like one of the best January movies to ever drop. I guess we did get Scream 5,
yeah,
but
they probably didn't want to go up against Scream, and I don't know
That's
why
true.
February didn't work out. Maybe there was a big movie in February, I forgot. But this movie was, being promoted for damn near a full year before it came out, which is nuts.
That is crazy.
Director, co-writer Scott Derrickson lists the 400 Blows and The Devil's Backbone as two major influences on this movie. I've never seen the 400 Blows. I definitely see the Devil's Backbone influence in here big time, though.
I guess I haven't seen that. It's
An earlier Del Toro movie about a little boy who does see some ghosts.
I see.
It's
Okay.
solid. You should check it out.
Ooh.
I've only got like one other thing here. Ethan Hawke, I guess up until very recently, he had a rule where he would not play any villains. I guess he didn't want to be typecast as a villain. But I guess he's like in his 50s now. He's getting up there.
yeah.
And he's at that point in his career, I guess, where he's like, fuck it, maybe villains are just fun as shit to play. So I mean, he was in this, also that Moon Knight series. I
Yeah,
believe
he was a
the
villain in that. Yeah.
So maybe he's just leaning into the more villainous roles now in his later life. So
He looks kind of like he's got a villainous kind of face now. He was in all those romantic comedies when he was young. Come on, just play a weird psycho now.
Just do it. Just do it.
I mean, he was in The Purge and shit. Like, not as a villain necessarily.
It's like the same
but,
thing
like,
with Tom Hanks. I'm like, come on, guys, just go buck wild.
I want to see Tom Hanks play Naughty Boy. I'd see it.
I would love to see Hanks play anybody but a beloved American icon. Please stop. Tom, I love you. Everybody loves you. We don't need our love to wear off or go be applied to fucking.
I would love for Tom Hanks to play some of some dark, fucked up shit. That would be so baller.
That'd be tight.
I would be down for that. But yeah, it's just like Ethan Hawke, man, he's just doing a lot of work, it seems like to me. So
Really?
he's just a very active actor, it seems like. He's in like 3-4 movies a year, and most of them are, somewhat in the public sphere. Like they're known movies. Like he was in The Northman, he was in The Black Phone.
He was in The Northman. Dang, I forgot about that.
Big year for him, dude.
Yeah, holy shit.
Yeah, there are quite a few here that I haven't heard of.
Yeah, getting into the MCU and shit.
Yeah. Ethan Hawke is getting paid, son.
Good for him. And
like he wasn't before. He was really
I've
down
never seen
in the
him.
gutter.
I've never seen him in anything where I'm like, I was upset to see him too. So like, good for him. I'm happy he's still there doing stuff.
I've never thought like, oh, he's a borderline actor. He's always done a good job.
Yeah, he's just not like ever a guy that I like that is like top of mind when I think of great actors, but he's like got the repertoire of one.
Yeah. He did those midnight movies that were really good. I remember I had to watch at least one or two of them in some of my English class in college, because they're literally just people walking and talking. There's no, as far as movie goes, it's all about dialogue, but the setting kind of plays a big aspect too, but it's also romantic. So it's just they're interesting movies if you've never seen those.
Never have.
Nope.
Like Before Sunrise, Before Midnight, I think.
I've
Before
heard of
Sunset or whatever. Yeah. They're interesting.
Reality Bites. Not a fan of that one.
Yeah, it does. That is all the trivia I had. It is, of course, time to talk Cooter of the Week.
Straight chillin'. Cooter of the Week.
Juicy J, what is a cooter and why do we hunt them?
Well, Bob Cooter's character type and a straight chillin' exclusive. Cooter must hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a cooter, and we want the cooter with the most points. The 5 points of cooterdom are sexual deviance, manipulation, smug arrogance, overall looking at attire, and overall patheticness, boys.
Speak English, Doc. We ain't scientists.
Dude, we have turned this into a science. Do we have a naughty boy cooter this week?
I think the answer is pretty clear.
Let's play naughty boy.
All right,
Let's play naughty boy here and
let's
out
spin the
who
wheel.
naughty boy.
What point is he going to hit first?
We're gonna go with manipulation to start, I think.
Manipulation. Yeah.
So the man is clearly manipulating every aspect. He tries to trap these kids. Clearly he does trap these kids, manipulates them into getting into his van, into like being holed up in this basement, into thinking that they can maybe get released when he has no intention of releasing them, into playing the naughty boy game.
Or even like, oh, I was thinking about releasing you. Oh, that little shit game.
That little pouty, petty bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God. Oh God.
I feel like sexual deviancy is in the mix, like even if only on the basis of he does not target anybody except for young
boys,
young boys.
Yeah.
And he wants to
don't
play
think that's a
naughty boy.
coincidence.
And
Naughty
he's not
They're all like
boys.
scrappers largely.
and he's not wearing a shirt.
Yeah.
Also,
We
too, that
talked
first
about
shot, wasn't he like in his underwear? In the first shot where he's sitting in the chair,
I think he was in jeans, but I could be wrong.
Was he?
No, I don't think.
I don't think it was underwear though.
I for some reason. Okay, all right. I was just in my mind. It was just.
But yeah, he's shirtless for sure.
Okay. I just wanted him to be.
So looking at attire, the man can't not have his mask. That's
yeah.
He's got mask issues.
Looking at
so-
Tyre, he's got big old dildos on his head.
What?
His little
What?
horns.
The horns?
Yeah.
Okay.
What kind of dildos are you playing with, buddy? Jeez.
So we
risky
saw the same
kind.
movie. No.
Oh God.
That's a pointy dildo there.
It is, man.
I thought there was one. I thought there was one top of the mask where they were kind of rounded off, but I could be wrong.
I mean, you're really looking. That could fit in my ass.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that could fit. Oh yeah.
We're gonna get
yeah.
done, dude.
I see what he's going with here.
I see what you're putting down. All right. So I would then go to patheticness, because man, like, and like if you need the moment that proves it, like I think it's littered throughout, but the losing of the mask. Boy,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not a good look, guy. You don't look too capable when you can't handle losing your mask.
He also like murders his brother in a second. Like,
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
even think about it, man. Like,
And then he
that's
blames.
pretty
Oh,
fucking
that's another
sad.
manipulation point too. He's like, "Look what you
Yeah.
made me do." Like that classic
Yeah,
moment.
that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. He's also
dresses as a fucking magician, which is
and he's got a
cootery.
rape van. I'm trying to say, like, would that be looking attire? Can you attribute the rape van to anything?
The magician's outfit is pretty.
It says
goofy.
abracadabra on the side.
Yeah.
I think it's all package deal.
Okay. All right.
Peekage.
Little bit of pathetic, little bit of looking attire. Peek.
I like that you like.
Another thing that I kind of was bummed that they teased and were like, oh, this is an aspect, but they didn't do, was the black balloons.
Yeah.
That just
that's
kind of
only-
seems like black balloons, but it didn't really have
There's
a
a
huge
Real missed
presence.
opportunity for Goo Goo Dolls needle drop, of course.
Maybe black balloon.
Black
there
balloon,
shouldn't be-
black
Although,
balloon.
by the way, this is one thing I do want to call out as a positive.
The
needle drop- Oh
The
yeah, you guys are really
Gooch
doing the
Dolls.
song justice.
The old
the Gooch
Gooch.
Dolls.
The Gooch.
Gotta
They're
do it
spinning.
justice.
They're spinning. No, the needle drop for Great Gig in the Sky, I think it was that Pink Floyd
Oh,
needle
yeah.
drop was pretty great. love
the use of that,
Yeah.
It was like it's a perfect for the setting and everything else, and maybe a little bit distracting, you could argue, but I think it was entertaining. I love that.
Yeah. I wonder how much they had to pay to get that shit. Like,
Oh
I
my
can't
God.
imagine.
Yeah,
Oof.
yeah, it would be a lot.
I bet the Gooch dolls be way more affordable. Maybe black
Around here, that means big money.
He's just got that.
Get the
and
Gooch
then-
Dolls on the horn stat.
Get me the
Oh,
Gooch.
Mr. Googe, I'd like the rights to your Black Balloon song.
Mr. Gooch.
Mr. Googe.
I'll write you a check for $69 right now.
Oh, wow.
Damn.
You can go to the Golden Corral and turn your shorts around.
Dude, you could you could
That's
live
one
off
knock.
you could live for a while off the old Golden Corral for $69.
You just never leave. You just sleep in the bathroom.
Excuse me, I paid my $1.50 and I intend to eat everything in this building.
I need more fried chicken, damn it.
Where the fuck are the Sunday toppings?
The
Popcorn,
brownest shorts
popcorn
you've
and
ever
shrimp,
seen.
man, guy.
Popcorn shrimp.
Where's the prime rib that looks like
Don't-
something out of a
don't
begging
eat-
strips bag?
Yeah,
seafood
prime
is a
rib,
no-go.
popcorn
Oh,
shrimp, and a
The
slice
word
of
prime is
cardboard pizza.
misused in this particular case.
That fish has been under the heat lamp for 16 hours. Don't eat it.
It's because
Don't
nobody wants the
eat it.
fish.
Oh,
It's either
God.
halibut or rainbow trout. It doesn't matter. Just have some.
I'll have some of the yellow.
Just drown it in the tartar. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
The yellow.
Some of the
I'll take some of the yellow.
Oh man.
Man.
What? That's from Vegas Vacation, right?
Vegas
vacation.
vacation.
I
Yeah,
almost
the
referenced
strip club.
that earlier, but this is a better way of coming.
Some of the yellow.
I have some of
Oh,
the yellow.
shit.
That's a great line by a psychotic actor.
It's just slop. It's straight. It's gruel.
Yeah. It's
It's
like the
nothing.
yellow is definitely superior to the bright Smurf blue beef, though. Must contend that I would make the same choice.
Why is
The
it
bread pudding he gets is straight white.
It is.
Oh, my
Oh,
Lord.
Anyway, this is not the movie we're reviewing.
Yeah. Watch Vegas Vacation if you
Yeah,
haven't.
let's
What are
book
we
this
doing?
fucker. Can we
Yeah,
book
I
this
think
fucker?
we got him.
Book
I think
him,
we got
boys.
Naughty boy number one.
He rates pretty high on the sand scale to my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got him. All right, boys, let's go ahead and let our hair down, relax a bit, and talk about what we've been watching this week.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
Randu, what have you been watching?
I have had very little time on my hands this week, so I've only watched a couple things, at least of note. I definitely got a little King of the Hill in there or whatever, but largely what I watched, the two films I watched, one was Vivarium from I believe last year, maybe the year before.
2
Which-
years ago, at least.
Yeah, I think at
Well,
least two.
was it pre-pandemic? Okay, it was in the last 5 years.
Yeah, 2 to 3. Yeah.
So that with Jesse Eisenberg and Imogen Poots.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. I
Mm.
would say that it is it just kind of like peters out.
Yeah.
I would argue. But man, I was getting animated reacting to some of the moments where I'm like watching Imogen and Jesse Eisenberg have arguments in the course of the film, and I'm like very much on Eisenberg's side,
Yeah.
pretty much right out of the gate. I don't know. There's clearly a nuclear family conversation being had, but I
Yeah.
don't know where it really lands exactly. Like it just kind of feels like nuclear family bad, maybe.
Yeah.
Which is a little basic. So I wonder if there's a little more to it. Anyway, I did enjoy it. It just maybe kind of dragged and didn't feel like it had a climax to me.
You don't want that.
Yeah. So last but not least of the two, I watched finally after years of intending to watch it. I got around to watching Night of the Hunter with Robert Mitchum from the way back, and it's definitely dated of its time or whatever. It's got some like things in it that are very like old Hollywood, old timey stuff. But man, there's some creepy shit going on in this movie. And Robert Mitchum he's a pretty good fucking villain. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of tough to talk about. Like for those who don't know, it's like essentially he's a supposed preacher who basically goes around marrying and then killing and then taking the money of widows in the name of the Lord. So
Damn,
and
for the Lord.
if in his mind, and then he thinks he's divine or whatever. Anyway, but he has the love and the hate on each of his fists, and he tells this big story about him and all this stuff. And the main protagonists of the story are these two children who are the children of one of the targeted victims. Anyway, I don't want to go too deep into it, but it's worth a watch. I definitely recommend that one. It is just if you're looking for an older horror movie that is like a little bit on the psychological thriller side, this is a good one for that.
Sweet. Juice, what you been watching?
Dude, I have not been watching a whole lot either. I did watch the newest episode of Miss Marvel, so keeping up with that. Still in the same kind of place. This is usually where you start to get the tipping point. This was episode 3. They're always 6, so usually around 4, you're like, okay, where are the really good episodes? And they usually deliver. For the most part, they usually deliver around 4 and 5. But so we'll find out next week, maybe. And the only kind of newish thing I've been watching is a new season of The Umbrella Academy dropped. I've been watching this over the years. It follows the same kind of template of, you know, the Netflix shows where they'll drop them every like year and a half to 2 years. So you got to wait a long fucking time before new episodes come out. But I've always enjoyed that show. I haven't got too much into the new season yet, but I'm enjoying it still so far. It's a fun superhero based show, but it's also got a lot of kind of sci-fi elements and just a lot of kind of like retro elements they play with, because they always are time traveling and stuff like that. And I'm enjoying this newest season as well. But like I said, I haven't got too deep into it yet. But and then just I'm in like this year I've been working kind of backwards in the Simpsons. I think I started around season like 8 or 9, and I'm around kind of 5 right now. And man, that is the golden years. That's some I've been busting some guts. I was surprised at just some of like the really good episodes have been hitting like back to back to back, and I was like, oh my god, this shit is hilarious. It's so good. That like realm. And even I was surprised at how most of the episodes were still good around like 8 and 9. I was kind of surprised by that. But 5, there's still though is like a clear difference. 5 around there is so good. But yeah, that's it. That's all I've been watching. Robert, what have you been watching, my guy?
Well, I checked out a movie called Watcher. It's a new release. This was one of the titles that played at the Overlook Film Festival. We were unable to watch it though, because there's just so many other things going on at the same time. But this is on VOD now. You can rent it just about anywhere. And it's starring Micah Monroe from It Follows fame.
Okay.
And The Guest. She and her boyfriend, they moved to Romania. They get like a really nice apartment. And it's got a huge window like all down the side of it, and there's this dude in a window in an apartment across the way that is just like watching her, or at least she feels like he is. There's sort of a silhouette. You can't quite see in detail what he's doing, but she just gets the sense that she's being watched, and that sort of evolves into stroking. Maybe that sort of evolves into a sense of her being followed around town. And she's somewhat isolated. Her dude can speak Romanian, she cannot, so she can't really communicate with people. She doesn't have any friends there. He's there for work, so like she's just sort of left to her own devices largely throughout the day, and she's just like terrified. And it's the movie's very much about this sense of paranoia, and whether or not these things are really happening to her is sort of the question of the film. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, honestly. I might do a mini cast on this if we end up not covering it on the show. I'm not sure. But I dig Micah Monroe just about anything. She's a great actress. It's a very simple, straightforward story, but I found it to be extremely effective and very entertaining. I recommend checking it out. It's called Watcher. And the only other thing I watched is this movie called Clove Hitch Killer. This is on Shudder currently, and this came out probably 5 years ago. I want to say it was an IFC Midnight release.
And it's got a nice simmering fan base, this one.
Yeah, it probably does. It's a very well-made movie. It's got Dermot Mulrooney, is that his name? I forget.
That is a name, yes.
That guy, that's the one. If that is a name,
Dermot
then it is that
Mulroney
guy.
or
Yeah.
Dylan McDermott.
Fuck me, it's one of those.
That's a Billy Eichner game.
Oh yeah, holy shit, it's one of them. I couldn't tell you which without Googling
Was
it.
he the guy in American Horror Story Murder House?
Yes.
That's Dylan McDermott.
Dylan McDermott is in this movie then. And he's like a standard dad. He's a dad-ass dad. He's got a couple kids. His boy is a teenager. He's a scout leader and his boy's in the scouts. And they're just living sort of the classic American dream. And in their town, about 10 years before when this movie takes place, there was a serial killer called the Clove Hitch Killer. And they called him that because he would always leave a little clove hitch tied at all of his killings. And he killed like a whole bunch of high school girls and then just stopped. He was never caught. And this kid has a sneaking suspicion that serial killer may be his father. And he's trying to like snoop around and dig up some information and find out whether or not that is the case. This movie is good, but it is fucking bleak, man. It's dark. It's a heavy watch. I do recommend it, but like you got to be ready for a heavy fucking movie. That's for damn sure. Don't go into this wanting something kind of light and breezy. It's heavy, but it's good. It's very well made.
We need to all collectively like watch Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey or something.
You're right. You're fucking right. I've been throwing on Seinfeld randomly because it's on Netflix and there's like 1 million episodes and like that's just sort of my decompressed show.
Ghosts. Check out Ghosts. You'll like that. HBO.
Ghosts. Yeah. So yeah, Clove Hitch Killer's good, but it's heavy for sure. That's really all I've been watching this week. Let's go and jump to our last segment of the show, which is of course our Hotline Screams.
Hotline Scream.
If you are listening and would like to call and leave a voicemail to be featured on next week's show, hit us up at 904-638-3231. We got 3 voicemails this week. First up, we're going to hear from our boy, 2 p.m. Todd. Let's hear what he has to say.
How do, chillin' crew? I would like to start off today's call with number 1, pointing out that it is 2 p.m. A little definition. The word speculation, the forming of a theory or conjecture without firm evidence. An example would be, there has been widespread speculation that he plans to quit. The Great Resignation, might I say? Or just relating to a current podcast. Speculation. If I can, take a moment to, again, introduce myself. 2 p.m. Todd here. It's been a long time since I've called, as we are on the cusp of spooky season. Wanted to call, say hello. I've been enjoying all the podcasts, as always. I do expect 1 a.m. Wes to put a call in, because it's been a while for him also. High time. What am I looking forward to? I'm looking forward to Black Phone, or as the platform for Soju would be Neutral Phone, as we move that forward. And also, I'm looking forward to the new Jordan Peele movie, Nope. My question for you gentlemen, if you could take a movie that is not currently a horror movie and remake that movie into a horror movie, do you have any that you would do that with? I leave you with that question. Ponder on. Keep going.
I refuse to believe this was recorded at 2 p.m. It must have been around 4:22.
Dude, I
There's only one 2 p.m.
There's a few questions in
that. Well, I have
Neutral
no idea
phone.
what
I'm not
he
sure what
was
that means.
talking about.
He was referencing a lot of jokes that we made on the Threads episode.
Okay.
So we were talking about speculating as to what would happen during like nuclear fallout and all that shit.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
I got
so
that.
he was, and then also the neutral phone. Juice, you were doing some sort of like fake campaign thing promise, and it was all about
neutrality.
all right.
yeah, being
Oh, you
neutral
mean
or whatever.
Oh yeah, yeah. That wasn't a bit though. Of
All
course.
right.
Totally, that was real.
The
All
speculation that actually, the speculation part is totally on point.
Okay.
Which we both kind of fucked up because
Good call, 2 p.m. Todd.
does not involve any data, so we kind of fucked that up.
I love his question though. Like, if there is a movie that exists that is not currently a horror movie that you would like to be remade into a horror movie, what would that be? I think this is kind of an obvious thing. I think even the trailer was recut to make it look like a horror movie, but Miss Doubtfire just sort of lends itself to
That's
that.
immediately what I thought.
Yeah,
that is a good and obvious choice. I would get the even more obvious choice was the one that I came up with, which is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, which has basically already been done because fucking oh no, what is that fucking movie? The train movie.
There's a lot. Snowpiercer.
Snowpiercer is widely believed to have some similarities to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory specifically. So it's kind of already been done, maybe. But I don't know. I'm trying to think of one that's not very obvious. I might have to give it some
This doesn't necessarily directly answer his question, but this is something that I've always wanted to see, which is more of a spin-off than a remake. But Home Alone, where they call the dude the South Bend Shovel Slayer, I've always wanted there to be a spin-off of that character just murdering people in Chicago.
I thought you were going to go a different direction of of Kevin as the serial killer as an adult or something like that.
That would be good too.
Because they did that. Didn't they do that short where he
he did a short
where he like kidnaps a taxi driver or Uber driver something.
Somebody attacks his Uber driver and he's like this always happens, and he ends up basically murdering these two guys trying to hijack the car.
So that's where I thought you were going with that.
What if he hunted kids that were home alone and like tried to kill him? That'd be a spin, you know.
That's a spin.
That
is a spin. I don't know. I think Sleepless in Seattle could do with some murders.
Yeah, for sure. At least a couple.
This is always something, like a darker and they actually there's kind of a video game, but even a more adult themed kind of like Alice in Wonderland, talking about like kind of the idea of Willy Wonka and stuff like that, the trippy side where the one side is very whimsical and childish, even though she does face some crazy things. But I'm
trying to think of stuff that's not like kids, because it's like it's pretty obvious, I think, to take a kid's property or a family property and say like, oh, make it dark now. And that's where we get all these like dumb, like dark Scooby-Doo movies and shit. At least those are horror to begin with to some extent. But
what about basketball?
I mean,
I don't know how you do it.
So
I don't either.
It doesn't take a like existing film, but I always wish that they would go a horror route with a scarecrow themed Batman movie. I know we kind of saw
that'd be cool,
bit, but I really think that they could make a truly horror themed Batman film if it weren't all just about the money. But I mean, with Doctor Strange dipping into it, come on, do it,
Doctor Strange is part of the monolith. You get to do a lot more inside the monolith than you do outside of it.
But I always thought that would be cool.
This movie is kind of halfway there already, but they can definitely go a lot further with it. The Cable Guy, they just went like full horror.
That's a good call. That's a good
one.
Mrs. Doubtfire and The Cable Guy are definitely two comedies that are super dark that could easily be twisted more horror.
Yeah.
That's good.
Uncle Buck could definitely go full horror. That'd be interesting.
Dude, I've
The
said
Blair
it
Winch Project. I've been waiting for a horror remake of that.
Dude,
Right? Come on.
I've been saying it before. That one with Bill Murray, and it's from like the early '90s, I think, where he like chases his psychiatrist down.
What about Bob?
Yeah, What About Bob?
That might as well
dude.
be a horror.
Yeah,
honestly.
dude, take What About Bob and make it more horror. And that shit gave me fucking anxiety.
Yeah, that's an anxious movie.
Oh
yeah.
my god,
I can't.
There's a lot
watch
of good
that
options
fucking
out
movie.
you
I
can't
don't
watch
like
what?
What about Bob?
Oh,
I can't-
What About
I can't
Bob?
do
It's
it.
not a big
Yeah.
rewatcher.
No.
Not for me.
Yeah.
But that's kind of in the same vein of like Cable Guy.
Goonies.
Cable Guy's a good call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a few solid
Yeah.
choices.
Yeah.
2 p.m. Todd.
Yeah.
Jump on it. Start making them. Crank those out for us, please. Thanks for calling, buddy. Always good to hear from you. Next up, we're going to hear from our friend, the librarian. Let's hear what she has to say.
Hello. Wow. Hello, gentlemen. It's 6:30. No, it's 7 a.m. Never mind. It was 6. But I had to share after I just woke up that I had a dream about you guys, and I fell asleep listening to the Halloween Kills episode because I finally watched it, so I got to listen to it. But I had a dream that my sister and I, we were like in New York, and something either attacked the city. I don't know if it was a monster or if it was like a war broke out. But we ended up evacuating together safely, and it just so happened that you guys were on the boat. And because I was listening to the Halloween Kills episode, in my dream, you were filming the Halloween Kills episode. So my sister and I got to join and give our feedback, and it was very funny. Thank you for being the high point of my nightmare, I guess. Y'all have a good one. Just a short and sweet little message, because I had to share this before I forgot my whole fucking dream. Y'all have a good one.
I love the idea that we would survive a horrific apocalypse just to continue making shitty podcasts about Halloween kills of all.
We never
movies.
take a day off, boys.
No.
Oh man, keep it going.
Whether sleet nor snow nor fallout.
We're gonna be the
record.
best show remaining. Number
The
one
only
entertainment.
show.
The best podcast on the heap.
The Straight Chilling Cruise Line. Come on by.
We'll be gods of the cinders.
If you want entertainment in your life after the apocalypse, you got to come to us.
You can get a plate full of the yellow or the blue, whatever you want.
Ooh,
We got them both.
Wow. Bob, just a straight bribribery. All right.
The blue
I know.
beef. Give me some of that blue beef.
We're holding up in the corral, boys. Let's go.
We're
It's so
holding-
blue. There's no food that's that color.
No.
The corral. our
Except
bastion
unless
of
you're in
safety.
fucking Hook.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah,
Actually, Hook, good horror movie fodder right there.
that could work
Um,
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another family one, though.
Thanks for calling in, librarian. I wonder how many other people are dreaming about the Straight Chilling Crew. Let's get more of those.
Screaming and creaming, am I
Whoa.
right?
Oh,
How many dreams have you had about us, and how many of them were moist?
how wet were those dreams? Did you have to do laundry when you woke up?
Oh, God, yes. Come with me.
The creamy dreamies. We all have them. It's
Okay.
fine. It's fine.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for calling. Last but not least, we're going to hear from our boy Jack. Let's hear what he has to say.
All right, so it's Jack. I'm waiting in my car for my buddy, and I was texting somebody, and I went to text them, like, we were talking about a song, and I was like, I like it, a scotch. I was going to say like that. I'm pretty sure that's something I heard from old Juice over there, fucking Soju. I don't know how to fucking spell that, and I'm sitting here, I'm like, scotch. And I don't even know where to start. So how do you spell that word that you say? And where did you get that word from? All right, later.
That is something
Juice?
I often
Can you
say.
even spell this?
So I can spell scooch. I don't know if I can spell scotch.
So I think the actual word is skosh.
What?
I had to look it up. Yeah, SKOSH, I believe, is the spelling.
SKOH.
SH, I think. Yeah, if I
Oh,
remember
wow.
correctly. Yeah.
Oh,
SKOH.
That is in
OSH.
here.
Skosh.
dictionary.com.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That is definitely not. I think it's I've not ever been aware of that word.
Except from your own lexicon.
Well, no, I mean, I would always say scooch. My grandmother would always say, like, move over, scooch. And of course, I just butcher everything, and just twist language in the worst ways. And so
just manipulate the
language. That's I think the inspiration for that. But wow, there is a word, scotch.
It's weirdly adjacent to a word that actually means a small amount, a little.
And yeah, it actually is relevant. Wow,
that's crazy. That's
crazy.
The craziest part. It's not crazy that that's a word because there's goddamn, there's so many words. But
yeah,
it's
too
crazy
many words.
Wow, good call, Bob.
Too many words. No more word. Stop.
I do say a scotch.
Word bad.
We all learned something here today, Jack. Thank you for calling in.
I guess it's skosh.
That's hilarious that he was experiencing frustration and like wanting to use your slang and just being like, how the fuck does anybody spell this bullshit word?
I love that we're affecting people's language.
It's for the worst.
That's the dream.
Definitely.
We're corrupting language, boys. That's the goal.
All these people walking around saying yabos and scotch.
Scotch, yeah, wow.
Stains.
We need like a straight chilling dictionary to release.
Yeah. We joked about that in the past. Like we kind of do. We got a bunch of bullshit we say, and we need to explain it.
If any of our wonderful Slack community wants to put together a wiki of all of the bullshit that we say, that would be helpful.
Have at it. Let's call that intern we used to have back.
Yeah, treat yourself, listeners. Do our work for us.
We need some more interns.
Just do our work for us. It'd be great.
Man, some podcasts I've been listening to lately that haven't been around as much as us, they're like, yeah, now we have this producer who's helping us out. And I'm like, what do we do? Somebody needs to be doing some of this shit.
Who are we and why?
Needs to do something.
Why isn't someone making this show better?
We're not doing it. Somebody needs to do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for calling, Jack. Hopefully that gave you some clarification there, and you can now text freely amongst your friends. Again, if you guys want to call in to leave a voicemail to be featured next week, hit us up at 904-638-3231. Other than telling us about all of your wet dreams about the Straight Chillin' crew, you guys have any other prompts you want to throw out there?
I like the prompt of the horror movie, turning a regular movie into a horror movie.
Yeah.
It's pretty solid.
That is a great prompt.
Yeah.
We need this is a beautiful case, just like we described, of somebody doing our work for us. Thank you.
Yeah, this is what we
Thanks, Todd.
We're busy boys.
Crowdsourcing. Let's do it. That's the only way to thrive these days.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, let us know if there's a movie out there that should be remade in a horrific fashion, what that movie might be. 904-638-3231. That does it for us this week at Straight Chilling. We'll be back next week with a brand new show. As always, next week we're going to be talking about Stranger Things 4 in its entirety.
Oh boy.
All 1,000 hours of it.
Oh, thank no.
Thank no.
Thank no. Add that to the wiki.
Thank no. So yeah, slam Stranger Things 4 into your eyeballs. Those last 2 episodes are dropping on the 1st of July. Get ready for next week's show. Until then, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. Follow us on Twitter at STR8_chilling, on Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. You can send us an email through our website, straightchillingpodcast.com. If you want to join in on our daily Slack channel conversations, hit us up on one of our social media outlets, and I'll send you a link so you can do so. Don't forget about our Joe Bob Live Watch Party this Friday. And until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.